Compression is one of the most widely used types of processing in audio production. It has applications in everything from recording, to mixing, to mastering, to broadcast. But compression is also one of the more difficult processes to really master. Unlike EQ or reverb, the more subtle effects of compression can be less than obvious, even while they make a big difference to a track or mix. The controls are highly sensitive and interactive, and novice users often find that even slight tweaks can make surprising and often unexpected changes to the audio signal. And since the effect is dynamic, it's harder to find consistent settings from one situation to another. The various different types of compressor designs contribute to this. The same settings that work well with one model may not work so well, or at all, with another. So it's not surprising that as an engineer or mixer is working toward a greater mastery of compression, there'll likely be a few mistakes made along the way, specific choices or habits you fall into that might not be the most effective ways to use the tool. This series of courses, 10 mistakes or 10 don'ts of various production activities, focuses on some of those things. Common, and sometimes less common, uses and applications that it would probably be best to avoid. This course, of course, covers 10 things to watch out for when using compression. It presents a series of suggested don'ts, mistakes, or just less effective practices, along with suggestions for alternative approaches that might enhance the use of the effect. The course assumes a basic familiarity with compression, but just to be thorough, I'll do a very brief review of the basic technical concepts and layout of a typical compressor before jumping into the 10 don'ts themselves. Compression is a dynamics process that reduces the dynamic range of a signal, a track or a mix. It does this, most typically, by attenuating the level of the signal on the fly, dynamically, whenever that signal crosses a user-determined level threshold. The louder parts of the audio, the louder notes in a musical line, or impact transients, for example, are reduced in level, while the level of the quieter sections remains unchanged. So the dynamic range between the loudest and softest levels is reduced. Then, if necessary, the overall level of the track is brought back up to a suitable volume to sit properly in the mix. But besides this most basic technical application, compressors can also be used more as an effect to reshape a sound or a mix, adding punch or fullness. So this dual use, basic level control and creative sound shaping, makes compression a very versatile tool. In use, the user sets a level threshold. Audio above this level will be attenuated, reduced, by an amount determined by the other main control, the ratio. The ratio number means that a signal that exceeds threshold by a certain number of dB will be lowered until it exceeds threshold by only 1 dB. So, a 4-to-1 ratio says that when the audio hits a level 4 dB above threshold, it'll be attenuated by 3 dB, so it ends up only 1 dB above threshold. At the same ratio, the signal that goes 12 dB above threshold would be lowered by 9 dB to only 3 dB above threshold, etc. The attack and release controls determine the compressor's response times. Attack sets how quickly the attenuation kicks in whenever threshold is crossed. Release sets how quickly attenuation stops and normal level is restored whenever the signal drops back below threshold. Together, they do more than just ensure an artifact-free effect. They can be tweaked to deliberately affect the envelopes of notes for creative effect. And makeup gain is used to restore a normal overall level after the compressor attenuates the louder parts of the track. There are sometimes a few additional controls, like knee, which sets the smoothness of the compressor's action, and different designs often omit some or most of these controls, but I'll touch on that in some of the videos. So, with that brief rundown out of the way, let's start taking a look at some of those things to watch out for when using compression to shape the dynamics of a recording and a mix.